Hi everyone. Today's topic, cleaning the foods you find in the dumpster and freezing foods. These are questions I get all the time. So I thought, make a video and combine the two topics. I really wanted to take a break and sit down with a cup of tea and have this little chat. And then I realized, I gotta fold laundry. I really, yes, am that busy. I just have so much to do. You would not think it, being that I'm a stay-at-home mom basically now, but yeah, we're gonna do this while we fold laundry. Cleaning the food you get from the dumpster, it really kind of depends on what it is, and it's not like I'm an expert on this. I'm really not. Like, I didn't do any research on how to clean dumpster food. It's just kind of what we do. With things that are more hardy, I will wash with soap and water, dish soap on a scrubby sponge. Like an apple usually is strong enough for that, a banana, an orange, a grapefruit, any of the citrus fruits, plastic packaging, that type of thing. The packaging that meat would be in, anything vacuum sealed. Now, when we're talking about your more delicate fruits and veggies like strawberries and blackberries and raspberries and grapes, that's where I will do vinegar to kill the bacteria, vinegar and water. And someone asked me recently, what proportion of vinegar to water do you use? And I was like, I don't know. Am I supposed to be paying attention to that kind of thing? Usually what I do is I'll take a big bowl or a giant Tupperware ice cream tub, and I'll put the grapes and berries, whatever, the delicate fruits in there. A pear, for example, which has a more delicate skin, so you're not going to want to scrub that with dish soap and a scrubby. So I put the berries, let's say, in my receptacle, and I will just pour some white vinegar straight up over the top of them. So then I feel like they're really getting that bacteria-killing power. And then I will fill the bowl with water and let them just sit in the water vinegar solution for a while I'm cleaning other things and putting things away. And then eventually I will scoop the fruit out of the bowl. I'll usually keep the water and vinegar in there to wash something else next. So I'll scoop the fruit out, put it in a colander, rinse it off. So far so good, because we have never, ever, ever gotten sick from dumpster food, ever. Not in the least. Not a twinge of an upset tummy, no diarrhea, no vomiting, no food poisoning, no death, none of that. Pretty lucky so far. Now, if it's something like a box of cereal, something with a kind of a cardboard box, I don't really want to wash that with soap and water and a sponge, because you don't really want your cardboard getting all wet. So usually what I'll do is I'll take whatever's inside out, because usually those kind of packages have a bag of something inside. You know what I mean? Like, you have your box of cereal and then you have your plastic bag of cereal inside. So I'll just discard the cardboard box and just keep the inner bag of cereal, which really generally is going to be clean because it hasn't touched any dumpster goo. Speaking of dumpster clothes, these are my new dumpster flannel pajamas with a little snowflake pattern. They're kind of big on me. They're very comfy. If you want to be able to wipe things down on the spot, you could bring baby wipes with you and hand sanitizer. I mean, you can put hand sanitizer on other stuff. You could bring Clorox or Lysol wipes that might have some bleach in them or bacteria killing power, or even little alcohol prep pads, that you use to, when you're getting a shot or whatever. It just kind of depends what it is and what it looked like in the dumpster, how far down it was. We really try not to bring the really gross, dirty stuff home in the first place, just kind of the regular stuff. And with the berries, even if it's just regular berries that you went into the store and paid for, I think they last a lot longer in your fridge if you do the water and vinegar bath for them, because strawberries and blackberries and raspberries go bad so quickly in the fridge. I mean, particularly raspberries and blackberries, just you get like a day or two in the fridge and then they're getting moldy and mushy. And if you have, you know, a big jug of milk, you can wash that with soap and water. I think with a lot of the fruits and vegetables, you're really just washing them kind of the way you probably should anyway, even if you get them from the grocery store. I mean, I know a grocery store probably isn't going to have the level of bacteria and germs that a dumpster is going to have, you would hope. But there's no reason to think that your food coming right out of the grocery store is particularly clean. If you think about where it's been, you know, in factories and in trucks, and how many hands have touched it, and, you know. All right, now on to the freezing of foods, because people also ask about freezing food. And again, I'm no like amazing expert on it. Freezing bananas. That's a major one, because as your bananas start to get overly ripe and you don't necessarily want to just eat them anymore because they're getting, you know, a little bit too mushy, you definitely want to freeze those for smoothies, because they will give your smoothies such a good creamy consistency. So for smoothie bananas, I peel the banana, discard the peel, or, you know, compost it, whatever. And then I just freeze the peeled banana in the freezer. And you could put it on a plate or some wax paper. Wax paper works pretty well so it doesn't like stick to it. And if you have several bananas, I've done it where I've had like several layers of peeled bananas on top of each other, kind of like log cabin style, and they will stick together, of course, as they freeze, but bananas are really easy to pull apart when they freeze together. Other things, if they're touching each other and they freeze together, like I've cut up peaches, like lots and lots and lots of peaches, and just put them in a big Ziploc bag and frozen it, and they just all freeze together into one solid block, at which point I will usually take the bag and throw it on the kitchen floor and hope that it breaks off chunks of frozen peach. Also for smoothies, sometimes it does break the bag, which is a little bit disconcerting. And the same with strawberries and blackberries and other things. So if you don't want them to stick together like that in a bag, you need to freeze them not touching anything beforehand. But if you have tons and tons and tons of fruit to freeze and not that much room in your freezer to, you know, put little chunks of peach all delicately in there, not touching anybody else, and on layers of wax paper, that's really probably what you want to do, and you kind of need to do that so they don't stick to each other, but that is just more of a pain in the neck, and, you know, more effort, takes a little longer. But I think that just throwing the bag with the large block of frozen peach chunks just right on the floor, that to me is very efficient. I'm of the opinion that you can pretty much freeze anything, but it's not necessarily going to thaw and be the same ever again. So think about the cellular structure of plants. Like think back to your biology class years and years ago when you were looking through the microscope at the cells of some kind of plant. And plants have a lot of water. Like all your fruits and veggies just have a massive amount of water. So what happens when something freezes? Well, the water expands. So all those cell walls are going to break. So when that thing thaws out again, you're never going to have something come back to be like the raw vegetable it was before. Like think about your salads, and you're not going to freeze iceberg lettuce and then thaw it out and think that's going to become a delicious salad, because it is not. So same with something like tomatoes or peppers or onions, all of those things that you might just have tons and tons of in the summer when your vegetable garden is producing. So you know, all those things you can chop up and freeze. That's what I do, because I don't know how to can things, and I'm kind of afraid of canning, and I really should learn how to can. I actually did buy a 12-pack of mason jars when they were on sale, and I had a coupon because I thought, okay, now's the time. I'm going to learn how to can things, but I just have this fear of things exploding. I think I saw a movie once, it might have been a Doris Day movie, where she used her homegrown tomatoes to can homemade ketchup, and then at one scene in the movie, all the lids were exploding in the basement. And if that would happen to me, that's what I'm afraid of. So I don't can stuff, but I freeze things. So, like I said, tomatoes, onions, peppers, zucchini, summer squash, eggplant, all of those I'll chop up and freeze in freezer bags. Some vegetables, for some reason, I feel like you need to blanch first before you freeze them. So, you know, you just pop them into some boiling water really, really, really quickly, and then take them right out and either put them in ice cold water or just rinse them, just get the heat out of them so they stop cooking. But I would do broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, green beans. You can freeze green beans without blanching them. I mean, you can freeze any of this stuff without blanching it. But for some reason, those vegetables, I feel like you need to blanch before you freeze. I'm not sure why I think that way, but it just feels right. Freezing milk. Yes, you can freeze milk. And that is something I didn't know growing up. It was never an issue, but my first job in social work many years ago was as a case manager in a homeless shelter. And we would get lots of donations of food. And you never know what you're going to get when you're getting donations. And sometimes we would get a whole bunch of milk all at once. And it just wasn't as much as we needed at one time for the shelter guests, nor would there have been room in the refrigerator for it. And of course, we had extra chest freezers. So we would freeze the milk in the chest freezers. And of course, it expands as it freezes, but not enough that it generally bursts through the milk jug unless it has somehow been damaged or breached in some way. But an intact milk jug will not burst with the expanding milk the way a soda can will burst open if you put a soda in the freezer by mistake and forget about it and leave it there, and then as your milk is thawing, you do want to shake it, but I think that's more important if you are into whole milk or 2%, because you kind of need to mix the fat all back through. With skim milk, it's not as much of an issue, but I kind of shake it anyway just to kind of help break up the icy chunks as we go along. And it's fine. I don't notice a difference in the taste after it's been, you know, frozen and thawed. It's fine. And how long it keeps in the freezer, I don't know. I think a long time, but I think things keep in the freezer a lot longer than probably is the popular wisdom on that topic, or what a nutritionist or an FDA official would tell you, because, you know, people will say, oh, steak or chicken in the freezer will last up to 6 months. I have found meat products in my mother's freezer, oh my God, that are years old, 5 years old. Filet mignon with a 2014 date. So it's like, all right, I'll clean out your freezer, I'll cook these up, give them a smell, see if they're okay, have Frugal Daddy give them a little taste, and then we'll just cut it up for the dogs if it seems okay. And I've never had any of those meat things be bad. I mean, they don't generally make it to the dogs, because when my husband tries them, he's like, this is perfectly fine, this is delicious filet mignon, I will eat it myself. 5 years in the freezer did not, you know, unless it gets all freezer burned, and then it's, you know, texturally not as pleasant. But if it didn't have freezer burn, which it doesn't always, I don't vacuum seal stuff before I freeze it, because I don't have a vacuum sealer. And unless I found one in the trash, I'm not going to have a vacuum sealer, because I'm not going to go out and buy one. I am all about minimizing outlay of money. That's what I'm all about. So milk is fine to freeze. Cheese you can freeze. I have in the past gotten deals couponing. I remember one time I got pound blocks of mozzarella cheese, I think for $1 each, couponing. So I got a whole bunch. I think I bought about 20 of them, because we used to make homemade pizza a lot. So I froze them, because that's not going to last forever in the fridge. And the cheese also thawed out just fine. It was fine after it thawed out. And think about prepared processed foods. You know, you might get like a Stouffer's frozen lasagna or something. So think about what's in that. There's vegetables in there, noodles, sauce, cheese. So if all those things are fine and can be frozen and come out and become your dinner, then those things are fine to freeze, right? Bread, if you got a great deal on bread, or find a whole bunch of dumpster bread, pop that in the freezer. Bread thaws out just fine. And you can even take it out slice by slice if you want and pop it in the toaster. Butter freezes just fine. Yogurt freezes okay. I think any baked product, muffins, cake, whatever, if you have extra of, you can freeze that. You can cook rice and freeze it. You could freeze your leftover mashed potatoes. If you make a big pot of soup or a big pot of chili, of course you want to make extra and freeze it so you have it ready for another day when you're too tired to make something, or you need to grab something to bring to work for your lunch. It's ready, it's there. Now, getting back to the molecular structure of fruits and vegetables. So generally, because the cell wall is going to break when that water inside freezes, when those things thaw out, you know they're mushy. I mean, you know what a strawberry's like when you put it in the freezer, and you know what it's like when it thawed out. It's not that you can't eat the strawberry when it's thawed out. In fact, mushy, thawed out strawberries that have been frozen are really good, well, when you want your strawberries mushy, like for strawberry shortcake. You want your strawberries juicy on a strawberry shortcake. You don't want to just chop up strawberries that aren't, oozing their juices. Now, people will macerate their strawberries and put sugar on them to get the juices to come out, but then you're just adding sugar you don't need already with this dessert. So I personally like my frozen strawberries to become thawed strawberries when I'm doing strawberry shortcake. And of course, any of these fruits, still frozen, are perfect in smoothies. Frozen grapes. Frozen grapes are a very fun summertime snack just to eat frozen. Also very good in smoothies if you get too many dumpster grapes, and because they're not going to last forever in the fridge. Blueberries. Blueberries are very nice frozen. Very nice just to eat frozen in the summer. Very refreshing. They have really nice texture. One thing I love to do with frozen blueberries is if I'm having muesli cereal with my almond milk, I love to put in frozen blueberries, and it keeps the milk really, really cold. It's like ice cubes in your cereal, but it's not ice, which would water down your milk. It's, it's blueberries, and I'm very into that. Now, in terms of freezing bananas, your bananas that have gone black, like they have gotten so overripe and mushy, or maybe you bought them at the store that way. I have a grocery store that will sell its overly ripe produce at a significant discount, and you're thinking, well, if I want to make banana bread anyway, I want my bananas overly ripe. So I want those discounted bananas. I don't want to buy the full price bananas and just let them turn black. But when you're making banana bread, you want those super, super, super overripe black bananas because they're the sweetest. Those you can't really peel and freeze. I mean, you kind of could. You definitely need it on something firm because, they're just mush. So usually those kind of bananas I will freeze still in the skin. And then when I want to make banana bread, I'll pull 3 or 4 of those out and just plop them in a bowl and let them kind of defrost, and then I'll peel them, and then it's just like mush everywhere. But those ones for banana bread. I mean, people should never be discarding bananas that are overly ripe, and I know people who do. I know people who will not eat a banana if it has some bruises on it. And I'm going to tell you, we get bananas so often in the dumpster, and a lot of times they have brown spots on the outside, and you peel it, there are no bruises on the inside. There are no bruises. They're not bruised. And it's not going to kill you to eat a banana that had a bruise in it anyway. You could actually just cut the bruised part off. One time we were in Sam's Club, and the guy who worked there was kind of dismantling the whole display of bananas. This just huge table covered in beautiful yellow bananas. Perfection of ripeness bananas. Not bruised, no brown spots, beautiful bananas. And he's taking them all away. And we said, what are you doing with the bananas? And he said, well, we're bringing out green ones because people want to buy them green so they can ripen at home. They don't want them already ripe, even though these were perfect. And we said, what are you doing with those bananas? And he said, we throw them away. And we said, can we have them? And he said, no. And we said, can we get them out of your dumpster? This was actually, I think, before we started dumpster diving for food, but we were obviously moving in that direction. And he said, no, our dumpster's locked. And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. That is horrific wastefulness of perfect food. It was very upsetting. It has stuck with me. Frozen blackberries and raspberries. Very good in smoothies. And when they thaw out and they're kind of mushy, they're very nice stirred into yogurt. Oh, so back to the milk. How long can you have milk in the freezer? I don't know. We have some milk in our freezer that's dated, I want to say last November, and now it's the very beginning of March. That's not really that long. That's just a few months. And it's been fine. I mean, we've been pulling it out jug by jug, and it's all fine. You know, the thing is with milk and meat, it's not that hard to determine if it's still fresh. I mean, milk is really easy. All you have to do is smell it. If it smells fine, and it's in a sealed milk jug, it's going to be fine. If it smells like it's going sour, then it's going sour. I haven't had any dumpster milk be sour. so far in my dumpster diving career. Never. I'm trying to think about other dumpster dairy foods. I mean, sour cream you can freeze and thaw it out. Now with meat products, again, you can tell a lot by the smell and the look of it. If it's changing color, if the color doesn't appear to be what it should be, if it's slimy. I mean, those are kind of telltale signs that you don't want to eat that meat. And we've actually, I don't think we've ever actually gotten any kind of animal flesh product out of a dumpster that wasn't okay. And we've gotten a lot of meat and chicken and pork and ham out of dumpsters, a lot. And it was all okay. Even the chicken we found in the summer. Now keep in mind, it was a hot summer day and the chicken was still frozen. That was kind of a good sign that it hadn't been in there very long. But yeah, we've never, look who's helping me fold laundry. We've never had bad meat from a dumpster. I can't really think of anything we've brought home that we tried and thought, uh-oh, no, bad. I will make a comment about the dates on food packages because they're not expiration dates. And probably if you're watching this video, you already know that. It's the people who don't know that who all the time are saying, oh, that food was probably expired. There's a reason they threw it away. They're the ones who should be watching this. But the only thing that by law is required to have an expiration date is baby formula. The other stuff, you know, it's a use by date. It's a sell by date. If it says sell by March 1st, the store is going to throw it away. But that doesn't mean the food has expired or gone bad on March 1st or March 2nd. It does not mean that. That food is still going to be good for a while, and you need to use your common sense in assessing it, whether you're getting it from a dumpster or from a store. I mean, if you have milk in your fridge and it says sell by March 15th and you bought it on March 10th and you're like, oh, 5 days, good, we'll use it by then, but you don't use it. Now you find yourself at March 17th and you haven't finished the milk yet. Oh my God, I need to throw it away. It's past the date. Seriously? Smell the milk. If it doesn't smell sour, if it tastes okay, it's okay. I'm not sure I've ever used sour milk to make biscuits. Well, I never have sour milk. But I've heard that people do that. So if you're looking for a use for your soured milk, well, Google that. Uses of sour milk. I think you can make biscuits with it. Eggs. Freezing eggs. You can freeze eggs. In my refrigerator, I guess the insulation in the wall between the fridge and the freezer is a little bit lacking. Because if you put something in the fridge that's right next to that wall and it's just the freezer's right on the other side, sometimes that stuff will freeze. And I've had eggs freeze in the refrigerator. And basically, you just thaw them out. I mean, a raw egg can freeze and then be thawed out. Or if you have some massive haul of dumpster eggs, or you've just gotten a great deal on eggs at the grocery store, so you're really stocked up, you can crack open your eggs and freeze them in ice cube trays, and then once they're frozen, like, you know, pop them out and put them all into a baggie, so each little cube is one egg, and then thaw that out for whatever you need it for, scrambled eggs, for baking, whatever. I think also you can cook your eggs and then freeze them. For example, you can make ahead breakfast sandwiches and have them all individually wrapped and in the freezer, and then you just grab one and put it in the toaster oven or the microwave, whatever, and you have yourself a fresh little scrambled egg and cheese on a biscuit. You know, and you've made these ahead to save time and be efficient. So you can freeze cooked eggs. The only thing I would be careful about in freezing cooked eggs is I think I would maybe undercook the eggs a little bit. Just a little bit. Keep them a little bit on the soft side because you're going to microwave that eventually, and you don't want the egg to then become overcooked and rubbery. Bagels and leftover pizza, both excellent candidates for freezing. So you know, if you go to Panera or your local bagel shop and you buy some wonderful, fresh, delicious bagels, after a couple of days, the ones you didn't eat that are either in your fridge or on your counter are getting kind of hard, and they're not so fresh and wonderful anymore. But if you put them in the freezer on day one, you know, the ones you didn't eat, then pull them out and thaw them out, they're better. They're better. They keep better in the freezer. You just pop a bagel in the microwave for about 30 seconds, and then it's all warm and lovely, and you can slice it open and put it in the toaster, and on you go. Now, in terms of leftover pizza, if you've made your own pizza or you went out and got pizza and you have leftover pizza, you should freeze your leftover pizza. If you just refrigerate it, apparently the oil, I guess from the cheese or the sauce, will soak into the crust and make it not good. But if you freeze it that night before you go to bed, it will thaw out and reheat better. Citrus zest. When I have oranges, limes, lemons, and so forth, before I use them, I will usually zest them, zest the outside part, and put it in baggies and keep it in the freezer. So then if you have a recipe that calls for zest, you already have it. I mean, you shouldn't have to run out to the store to buy a lemon because a recipe calls for lemon zest. You want to have it already to minimize your output of money. One thing that I think doesn't freeze that well is cream cheese. We have frozen it, and it's okay, but the texture definitely changes a bit when you thaw it out, and it's a little bit more crumbly. So you have to work with it a little bit if you're going to try to spread it on something. I think in a recipe, it would probably be just fine, but spread on a bagel, you just have to work it a little bit. Miss Nevy wanted to show you, why don't you stand here, on her new footy pajamas, which have little dancing pigs on them.
I want to show you the feet.
Oh, the feet have little pig faces and little ears, little pig ears. What do you like best that comes out of the freezer?
Ice cream and popsicles.
Ice cream and popsicles. So you can freeze ice cream and popsicles. Those freeze really well. There are a lot of things you can freeze in ice cube trays. Now, for example, if you've got a lot of citrus fruit at one time, you could squeeze the juice out and freeze it in ice cube trays so that if you needed just a little bit of lime juice for something, like in a smoothie, or to throw in a pot of soup to add a little zippiness to it, you could just pull out 1 or 2 lime cubes and you'd be ready to go. Kale. I mostly do this with kale, but I've done it with other greens as well, like spinach and Swiss chard and other things, where I'll have a whole lot of that at once. So I will take the greens and I'll blend them up with as little water as I can get away with in the NutriBullet. And then I will pour that blended greens, a puree, into ice cube trays, freeze it, pop them out, and store them in baggies. And then I use those in smoothies all the time. And they really add, I think, some great nutrition and often a weird color, but they really don't seem to change the flavor of the smoothie at all. If you put a bunch of fresh spinach in your smoothie, it's going to taste like that. And I don't personally want to taste fresh spinach in my smoothie. I want to ingest it, but I don't really want to taste it. So if you freeze it first, it'll keep for a long, long time, and you don't really get the flavor. For some reason, I think freezing does that. That's what I like to do with my extra greens. I hope I adequately covered the topics of cleaning the food and freezing the food. And if I left something out, ask below and somebody will know the answer.
As always, thanks for watching.
Bye!
Bye. Pig power!